Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 3, Fire. In the first episode of Book 3, Aang awakens to himself weakened, his head full of hair, and all of his friends dressed in Fire Nation clothing as they travel on a stolen Fire Navy ship. He is dismayed to discover the world once again believes him to be dead, just like when he was frozen in the iceberg. Sokka believes that this is a positive development since the Fire Nation will not pursue them anymore, and insists they should maintain the ruse as long as possible. Zuko and Azula are welcomed home as heroes, and Fire Lord Ozai makes his first appearance in the series as he congratulates Zuko for killing the Avatar and apprehending Uncle Iroh. Zuko realizes that Azula credited him with killing the Avatar for her own ulterior purposes. Aang tries to run away by himself, but is pushed to the brink of exhaustion. He is contacted by Avatar Roku's spirit, who tells Aang that he has inherited Roku's problems and mistakes, but he is destined to redeem Roku. He accepts that with the fall of Ba Sing Se, secrecy is their greatest advantage until the invasion, and gives up his trademark glider to the lava flows of the Avatar Roku's island. So from this first episode, you automatically understand this is going to have spoilers for pretty much all of Season 3 and all of Avatar at this point, because, I mean, why are you even... you got to finish the Avatar to really jump in this. You know, this is by far one of the best shows I've seen, anime-based shows. I think I've called it an anime before. It's not technically an anime because it's an American television show, but anime-styled television shows. One of the best. Absolutely go see it. So after this first episode, yes, absolutely, you have got the feeling that this is the end game. We are in some of the last few moments of some of the most important episodes before the biggest battle of the series. Now, this, what does this have? 16, 17, 18. I'm seeing... I think the last 3 episodes were kind of combined into one to make like an hour and a half episode. So let me see. There is a 4-part ending, which is like an hour and a half. So I'm seeing 20. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there was about 17 episodes, 18 episodes, and that last episode being the long one. But yeah, overall, I'm like, wow, this absolutely feels like this is on a movie scale. Now, what my biggest critique was at the beginning of Avatar: The Last Airbender was it felt so traditional, narrative. Let's go to a city, help these people out. Let's go to another city, help these people out. And then it became so much more than that. They were able to flesh these characters out and make me care about people that are on the protagonist side and people on the antagonist side. I think from the left to the right, from the looks to the sound to the drama, the drama to the different aspects, the way that it's able to carry the tonal shifts of the humor, it just feels so natural, and it feels flawless in the execution. Like, I can't believe that I overall don't have that many criticisms of this last few episodes. That's why I kind of just going through a couple of maybe the best scenes that I can find real quick, because personal stuff's going on for me, and I didn't have a chance to really go through this 3rd season and write detailed notes. So I am just kind of talking about the broad aspects and maybe a couple of my favorite scenes. But overall, from the beginning, with him having a full head of hair, you can already tell this is a different type of Avatar Aang that we're getting. I didn't even know if he could grow hair. I didn't realize he was shaving it. I don't know why. I guess I just felt like that was what was going on. I wasn't exactly sure. But from the visuals that we see in this, the what is it, the lion turtle thing at the end. Oh my gosh, I was just like, what is going on? This is some next level. And him having to conquer the chakras from it's it's got so much packed into it. Like, I almost regret not going through this and having a little bit more detailed notes, but overall I am just in awe of how detailed this actual world is. And I've actually gone ahead, when I was finished with this season, I jumped into the Legend of Korra because I was just like, I need to keep on in this world. I can't stop. I can't stop. You know, like I can't stop. And so I binged the first season of Legend of Korra, and I can talk about the Legend of Korra in a way that won't spoil anything from the last Avatar. Yes, it's in the same world. It basically takes Avatar: The Last Airbender at the end of this, and fast forwards time. It's like a fast forward of 70 years or something like that. And I believe there is comics that take place in between the two shows to kind of fill in the blanks of what's going on. I think it was called The Promise, The Search, The Rift, Smoke and Shadow, North and South, and Imbalance comic trilogies. And then Korra followed that after that. So, yes, this show specifically was just so much fun to watch on so many different levels. Even when it comes down to learning some of the more intimate stuff, the type of energy bending and different types of element bending, down to the different types of subsections, like Earth can bend metal and stuff like that. I just loved learning more about these different types of elements. I was just like, this is baller. Episode 2, Aang and his friends steal some clothes to hide in plain sight while traveling in the Fire Nation, but Aang is accidentally taken to the Fire Nation school. He hides his tattoos with a headband, long sleeves, and learns the Fire Nation pledge of loyalty and must maintain his cool upon hearing the propaganda about the death of airbenders, which that sucks. He organizes a school-wide dance party, a footloose, kick off your airbending shoes. So a school-wide dance party for the uptight Fire Nation kids. When the principal arrives to shut it down, no footloose, no airbending loose, the kids help Aang escape. A form of movement similar to Capoeira is shown as a Fire Nation traditional dance. Meanwhile, Zuko becomes increasingly paranoid that Aang is still alive and hires an assassin to kill him. So this is the assassin with the guy on the eye. He's like, shh, 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 shh. I noticed this episode was very much in the vein of like it felt like a John Hughes movie or something like that, where Aang, it's not so much about the bending or the show too much. It's more about the characters interacting and kind of growing into their own. Because this season definitely is talking to the kids that have kind of grown up with this. I mean, if they were watching this, let's just say they were 10 years old when they started the show, or I guess they weren't probably 10 years old if it was it says didn't I say it was 2005? I think I said it was 2005. So the kids that were watching it, I mean, if you think about it, a kid watching Avatar, the full series, and they had just turned like 10 or something like that, almost relatively, this could have been on for a fourth of their life. And so they are learning a lot of things. I mean, you really don't think about like kids shows in perspective of how long they're on television, how long you actually grow up with these characters and stories. But yeah, I mean, for years, if you think about it from a kid's standpoint, I mean, they're with them so much longer in perspective to the time that they've been alive. I mean, you know, like if you had thought about like watching Avatar when you were like 7 or 8 and you had grown up with it, that's almost half your life. You know, like 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, it is important to have these kind of episodes that, you know, give kids an insight on preteens and stuff like that, and teenagers, and growing up and whatnot. I don't know. I should, like I said, I should have wrote this down. I should have had this all written down. Stick to the script. Let me see. Gang runs to the public. Guitar. So, chapter 3, The Painted Lady. I actually did like The Painted Lady. It's not one of those episodes that feel super imperative to the overall story arc, but it does feel like it's kind of that first season, second season, making making good with the townspeople, or helping people in order to bring them food, help the poor, help the needy, kind of thing. And it overall is quite a beautiful episode, just from the artwork itself, with the painted lady and how Katara is interacting with her the entire time, and then at the very end when she actually meets the real painted lady. Yeah, I absolutely really dug it, and I feel like we've seen this kind of storytelling before. You have a town or group or family that is in need. They have an enemy as well, but their enemy actually ends up being the ones that are helping them, aka I think Zuko had this kind of similar episode. You remember when they didn't know Zuko was part of the Fire Nation or something like that, and he was trying to help that little boy, and then as soon as they found out he was from the Fire Nation, they turned on him. And this is almost the exact same thing with Katara, because they find out that she's the painted lady. So they eventually, I think they eventually say it's okay. But overall, we've seen this kind of story before. Let's see. So yeah, when Aang loses his I don't remember what his flying thing. What is? Oh, now people are gonna flip on if I don't find this. Oh, the glider. Sorry, I thought the glider had like an official name of some sort. I don't remember. But anyways, when he gives up the glider, it's like, wow, this does not feel like the same Airbender at all. So the first few episodes are very much kind of like getting us in the headspace of where all the characters are going and how they're feeling towards Sozin's comment, which is coming up pretty soon. Sokka has felt isolated in Chapter 4 as the only person in the group unable to bend, determined to increase his usefulness to the group. In the war effort, he seeks out Fire Nation Sword Master Pandio while maintaining his assumed Fire Nation identity. With persistence, he convinces the Master to take him on as a student. Pandio teaches Sokka the philosophy of swordsmanship by giving him various seemingly boring tasks like painting and rock gardening. It's kind of like the Karate Kid methods. The sword master also helps Sokka forge his own sword, and Sokka chooses to use pieces of a meteorite he found for the material. When Sokka gains Pandya's respect, he becomes ashamed of representing himself and divulges he is not from the Fire Nation, but the Southern Water Tribe. Pandya challenges Sokka to a duel. Praising Sokka's fighting strategies along the way, Pandya finally reveals that Sokka's identity has been readily apparent from their first meeting, and that the ways of the sword belong to all nations. I just want to say and point out that all of the different nations have different eye colors, so I don't even understand why he would pass for anything. I don't feel like it would be possible for any tribes to pass as anybody, because everyone has the eye color of their tribe. So it's like, He gives Sokka a White Lotus pie show tile as a farewell gift. Meanwhile, Iroh devises a plan to escape his Fire Nation prison, and while fiending the part of a broken and humiliated wretch for his captors, secretly begins an intense training regimen to further build his strength. At the end of the episode, Sokka gives Toph a piece of the meteorite she bends to create the Nickelodeon splatter shape. Oh, I didn't even see that. I guess that all of the credits and stuff are just cut off the end of Netflix, which sometimes I don't exactly like because I honestly enjoy hearing some of the music and kind of reminiscing, or like, not, soaking into the tone and the feel of the show right after it. Chapter 5, The Beach. Originally, I was like, I'm not going to go through each of these episodes, but this is an episode I find important. Zuko, Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee go on a forced vacation to Ember Island while their father meets with his advisors. Zuko and the girls attend a party where Azula tries to flirt but scares guys away with her intense, violent temperament. Zuko, who has resumed a romantic relationship with Mai, observes a boy flirting with her and destroys a vase in anger, prompting Mai to tell him off. Later, around a campfire, Ty Lee reveals that she is so outgoing because she has grown up with 6 identical sisters and hated it. Mai reveals that her parents required that she always keep her emotions subdued and act properly, and that is created this cold persona she feels she must always protect to others. Zuko reveals that he hates himself because he is unsure of the difference between right and wrong anymore. Azula reveals that she knew her mother thought she was a monster. The group then bonded and ended the night by returning to a party and trashing the house. Meanwhile, Team Avatar are attacked by Zuko's assassin, who's an unusual form of firebending by creating power-localized explosions from a third eye in the center of his forehead. The group narrowly escapes on Appa, but Katara mentions her belief that the assassin knows where they are. So this was kind of the same spectrum of the previous episode, with them having the the Footloose episode I was talking about, when they arrived at the Fire Nation school and they're told not to do the dance and not to have the fun. This is kind of in that same realm, but I feel like this one's a lot more fleshed out in a way, because we get better reactions, or not better reactions, we get really interesting reactions and background and story to the antagonist supporting characters. I mean, this is what makes this the show that much better, is because they sit down and take the time to show what's going on and explain why these characters are so eccentric, or so they explain why they are. And so I can't praise them any more than that. Just either visually showing or having them explain it to the group, just so that we can understand. It's like, okay, that's why some of them are a little bit extra and some of them are a little bit more internal. But overall, it's episodes like this that I'm like, okay, so we're getting some background, and it's not just story, plot. There is some character growth. In Chapter 6, The Avatar and the Fire Lord, we learn all about the background of Avatar Roku and Fire Lord Sozin. Aang and Zuko both learn about the former's childhood friendship. Sozin suggested to Roku that the Fire Nation should control the destiny of the entire world to ensure universal prosperity. As Roku was the Avatar, he knew the importance of balance between all the people and disagreed. When Sozin later conquered an Earth Kingdom, Roku swiftly defeated him in battle and threatened to kill him if he stepped out of line again. 25 years passed until Roku's volcano island home erupted ferociously, causing Sozin to travel 100 miles to help his old friend. At the last moment, with Roku overcome by volcanic gases, Sozin realized that he could set his plans in motion if he let Roku die and abandon him. Roku passed on and was reincarnated as Aang. Sozin states that he knew that the next avatar in the cycle would be an air nomad, leading to the destruction of the air temples, but noted that Aang had eluded him. Confronting Iroh in his prison cell, Zuko learns that Avatar Roku was his mother's grandfather. What? Wait, what? Well, hold on. Confronting Iroh in his prison cell, Zuko learns that Avatar Roku was his mother's grandfather, and his father's grandfather obviously being Fire Lord Sozin. Iroh states that that symbolizes the battle within Zuko himself to restore balance to the world. Aang, meanwhile, discusses with the group that Fire Lord Ozai and the Fire Nation have been treated like they have been given a chance despite the war. So, even with watching the majority of these episodes twice, I did not catch that. Like I said, I don't know many kids watching this. I don't know any kids actually, but I don't know many of my friends that watched this when they were younger, and caught that. But oh my Lanta, that is a revelation, isn't it? I mean, that is some interesting background history with some of the most interesting supporting characters. Like I said, I think what this show continuously proves is that the supporting characters are just as important as the main characters, because there really are no supporting characters. Everyone's part of this main storyline and gets the right amount of writing that helps explain who they are as a person. And somehow it's done brilliantly between, having really tough scenes between family members, or, slapstick comedy. And I think 99% of it works phenomenally. I'm just blown away. And, learning about Avatar Roku and Fire Lord Sozin in this just adds, that much more depth to the story. Chapter 7, The Runaway. Katara expresses her disapproval when Toph and the boys begin scamming Fire Nation street gamblers for quick cash. Toph thinks Katara is acting too motherly, and a rift forms between the group, similar to what happened in the beginning of season 2. When did Toph join? Whenever Toph joined, there was a rift between her and Katara again. The rift forms between the group. Sokka finds a wanted poster of Toph. After overhearing Sokka and Toph discuss Katara's motherly instincts after the death of her own mother, Katara decides to pull a scam with Toph to patch things up. Katara plans to turn Toph in and collect the reward money. It's all a big kind of ruse of like, what happened? I think they showed this at the beginning of the episode, so it's like, wait, what's happening? And then they do like a flashback. With Toph metal bending her way out of jail, the plan fails when Toph is placed in a non-bending wooden cell, which they should have known that. Soon followed by Katara at the hands of Zuko's assassin. He uses them as bait in an attempt to kill Aang, but Katara brilliantly uses her own sweat to waterbend herself and Toph out of jail. The group subdues the assassin long enough to escape the town, with Sokka naming him Combustion Man. I forgot what they had called him. I forgot how much I like Toph. Toph feels like a much needed character. They do not have a Toph in The Legend of Korra Season 1, in my opinion, because she's just kind of a firecracker. You never really know what she's going to do or say. This was a fun episode to watch. It doesn't feel as important to the overall scope and the scale, but I was just like blown away from the action again and how smart. They're always reinventing ways of bending, and how to bend, what you can use to bend, and sweat's like, okay, might as well. Chapter 8, The Puppet Master. The gang discovers that there has been a strange disappearance in a Fire Nation town during the full moon. They befriend an elderly innkeeper named Hama, who reveals that she is a waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe, who has been taken away 60 years previously alongside her fellow waterbenders. She becomes Katara's mentor and shares her own tragic story of her life as a longtime prisoner of the Fire Nation, as well as new waterbending techniques, such as pulling water out of thin air or plants. Katara later discovers that Hama is enacting her revenge by kidnapping Fire Nation civilians with bloodbending, a dark, sinister waterbending technique which manipulates the water in someone's body to cause great pain and take over their actions. Katara battles Hama while Toph, Aang, and Sokka continues to rescue the captives. Katara is eventually forced to use bloodbending on Hama and save Aang and Sokka after being arrested by the villagers. Hama congratulates Katara on learning bloodbending, cackling as she's led away. A horrified and saddened Katara cries while Aang and Sokka comfort her. So this was Chapter 8, The Puppet Master. This is perfectly what it should be called, because when they go into this bloodbending technique, it looks like they are using puppet techniques to choose what they are having the person being bent do. So this is by far one of the most eerie episodes of the Avatar. I think there are episodes that are definitely, more sad. There's some that have more tone to them, but this has such a dark and sinister feel throughout the entire time Hama is on screen, and she may not be saying really anything that horrible at the time, but the way that they have the artwork and they're shooting her really low in this dark, creepy woods, it was absolutely horrifying. And to see the technique of bloodbending being introduced just now in episode 8, like with only a few episodes left to go in the final series, it's like, wow, this could have been really impactful being shown earlier. But like I said, they are continuously holding elements on their chest, like holding the cards to their chest, because they don't want to show all these different crazy techniques. And this is one that they were saving for the last some of the last episodes, and I was just blown away. I was like, this is scary as hell. And without saying any more about it, I'll continue. Chapter 9, Nightmares and Daydreams. The group arrive at the rendezvous point for the invasion within 4 days to spare. The revelation causes Aang to feel increasingly nervous about confronting the Fire Lord after having a nightmare about a failed invasion. Aang feels he isn't fully prepared and sacrifices his sleep and sanity in order to train. After 3 days of no sleep, it takes the collaboration of Sokka, Toph, and Katara to get him to finally trust his preparation and feel confident about facing the Fire Lord Ozai. Meanwhile, Zuko enjoys time spent with Mai and a pampered lifestyle in his palace, but becomes anxious upon learning that Azula has been invited to an upcoming war meeting while he is not. Not wanting to show up uninvited, Zuko decides not to go, but is ultimately requested to attend with a seat at his father's right hand. He confides in Mai afterwards that it was what he always wanted, but didn't feel like himself. So, like I said, this has enough episodes in this series to show us the struggle between Zuko. I do feel like he goes back and forth, good and bad, good and bad. I mean, he's right now having Aang trying to kill Aang at this point. But like I said, it's in a way that he's still conflicted. He is absolutely still conflicted, and he got exactly what he wanted, with the exception of having his uncle Iroh in jail. Like, he got exactly what he wanted, and he's still not happy. Chapter 10, Day of the Black Sun, Part 1, The Invasion. On the day of the solar eclipse, many allies featured in previous episodes, such as Haru and his father, the Swamp Benders, and the Mechanist, and his son Teo, reunite with Team Avatar to launch the invasion of the Fire Nation. This is what I really loved about them, bringing all of our favorite characters from the previous 2 seasons and a little bit of this last season on back here. And this is straight up Avengers Assemble. Like, this was Avengers Assemble before Avengers was even a thing. I was blown away by the fact that they were able to pull all of these characters that I thought were just one-offs. Like, I was like, okay, we're never going to see those swamp people again. Okay, we're never going to see the mechanic and his son again. But all of that ended up coming back, and the thing about it is all of those characters bring kind of their own aesthetic too, because I forgot how much the mechanic is he brings so much of the steampunk vibe. I honestly forgot about it when I had flown through it, but even just kind of reoccurringly thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is still like late 1600s, probably 1700s, and and they've got like balloons and shit like that, hot air balloons and stuff like that, and so it's cool to see the tech they have in the Avatar series and how it grows. Meanwhile, Zuko leaves a letter to Mai on her bed, and tells a portrait of his mother that he is going to set things right. He grabs his broadsword and a bag and heads out the door, back with the invasion force, who are relying on several forms of bending in aquatic vehicles designed by Sokka, then engineered and constructed by the mechanic. They successfully circumvent several layers of Fire Nation defenses and reach the capital shores, where they begin a grueling assault towards the palace under constant onslaught from Fire Nation forces, which I love the scale of how big things are in this series. Like you can see how small the ships are compared to some of the massive pieces of art. I think there's like a Fire Lord Sozai, like massive piece. I don't know what is that called. It's just like a massive stone piece of him, I guess, when you're entering the Fire Nation, and it's just like humongous. And when they have these massive, what is this, flaming, what is it called? Massive flaming ropes come up beside it. It's just like incredible to watch. So yeah, Aang reaches the Fire Lord's palace only to find out no one is present in the entire city. He returns to his friends, where they realize that the Fire Nation knew about the invasion. They all debate whether to try and locate Ozai's secret hiding place or to retreat, avoid possible capture. Aang ultimately decides that he has to try and confront Ozai. Chapter 11, The Day of Black Sun, Part 2, The Eclipse. As the eclipse begins, Sokka, Aang, and Toph search for their Fire Lord in the underground bunker, only to find Azula failing to apprehend her, while having to deal with her personal Dali agents. Elsewhere, Zuko confronts his father, finally denouncing Ozai's treatment of him as cruel and abusive. Zuko tells Ozai that he's realized what an amazing lie the Fire Nation justification for the war is, and that he knows his own destiny does not involve killing Ozai, leaving that responsibility to Aang. Meanwhile, Sokka finally deduces that Azula is simply trying to outrun them until the eclipse concludes, telling Aang and Toph to walk away. But Azula triggers Sokka by mocking him about Suki's imprisonment, causing Sokka to attack her for information. Back in the throne room, as Zuko begins to leave with the eclipse still in effect, Ozai stalls him by revealing what happened to Zuko's mother. She found out that Zuko's grandfather, Fire Lord Azulon, had commanded Ozai to kill his only son as punishment for Ozai trying to circumvent Iroh's birthright to the throne following Lu Ten's death. Like, what kid's gonna understand anything? Ozai banished her as a punishment for treason. As Ozai finishes the tale, the eclipse ends, and he attacks Zuko with lightning. I love the artwork on this shit. Holy shit. Zuko redirects it back at him using the technique taught by Iroh, and runs intent on freeing his uncle. However, Iroh has already escaped from prison by the time he arrives. The Fire Nation surrender and be captured. Oh, wait, sorry, I skipped a line. Intent. However, Iroh has already escaped from prison by the time he arrives. The Fire Nation counterattacks with an advancement fleet of airships. The exhausted, diminished invasion force has no choice but to surrender and be captured. At the urging of his allies, Aang flees with his friends to the Western Air Temple. Zuko follows them in a stolen war balloon. So this was a fucking crazy last few episodes, I'll be honest. I was completely befuddled by the fact that they were trying to stall the entire time until they were like, oh yeah, he's trying to stall. I was like, oh yeah, of course. So I really love the background information. Like I said, there are no small parts in this series. Like, we're constantly getting information about almost every character we get. We kind of get just like every character feels like a fleshed out person, in my opinion. Like, the majority of them are just really relatable in a way that you kind of understand where they're coming from. Even the protagonists have some not so great things about them, and some of the antagonists have some good things about them. So it goes back and forth. Chapter 12, The Western Air Temple. Zuko follows Aang and his friends to the Western Air Temple, seeking to join their group. There, Zuko desperately tries to prove to them that he has changed for the better and wishes only to atone for his past mistakes. Which I'm like, dude, you have got so much atoning to do. He's initially met with complete resistance, though after Zuko leaves, Toph challenges the rest of the group for dismissing him so quickly when Aang is in desperate need of a firebending teacher, which completely makes sense, but I mean, he did try to kill him for a long time. Toph eventually decides to go and speak to Zuko herself, but she startles him in his sleep. Zuko accidentally firebends her and burns her feet. Toph crawls back to the temple for help, where Sokka decides where they're going to have to go after Zuko in retaliation, which is completely fair. I mean, it sucks that that's how the negotiations were going down at first. Team Avatar is nearly blown up with the arrival of Combustion Man, but Zuko affects his aim just enough to spare them. Sokka eventually defeats Combustion Man by hitting him in the third eye with his boomerang, causing Combustion Man to blow himself up. Afterward, while the group does allow Zuko to join them, an embittered and skeptical Katara reminds Zuko of his past slip up in Ba Sing Se. She threatens that if Zuko gives her one reason to think he might hurt Aang, she will destroy him. The episode ends with Zuko sadly pondering Katara's threatening words. And so I feel like half the episodes of Zuko is sadly pondering someone's words, I guess. But she's not wrong. The dude's fucking insane, and he's changed sides more times than I can count. And I wouldn't trust him as far as you can throw him. The dude's lighting people on fire left and right. It would be hard to believe that he would just want to be good all of a sudden, considering how well the Fire Nation was sort of treating him in some of the episodes. Of course, they don't know that, but I just don't know if they see how bad the Fire Nation was disrespecting him for the longest time. I don't know. Us as the viewers obviously understand Zuko's past and are still trying to understand his struggles, but them, it's totally understandable why they wouldn't want to trust him. Well, I keep looking to see if I can skip any of these episodes to kind of wrap it up, but I keep thinking, oh my god dang it, this is a really good one. Chapter 13, The Firebending Masters. Zuko tries to teach Aang on how to firebend, but has lost his own ability to bend, as he is no longer reliant on rage, the previous source of his firebending. Toph suggests that they learned from the original source of firebending, the mighty dragons. The mighty dragons? What the hell? Zuko angrily notes that the dragons no longer exist, but the dragons first imparted their knowledge to the Sun Warriors, a now extinct civilization who were the genesis of the Fire Nation. Zuko and Aang travel to their ruins, where Zuko discloses to the Fire Lord Sozin Zuko discloses that Fire Lord Sozin started the tradition of hunting dragons for glory, and that the last one was killed by Iroh. After falling victim to a booby trap, Zuko and Aang discovers the tribe still exists. The pair each carry a sacred flame up the mountain to meet the two masters, Ron and Shaw, the dragons, who turn out to be the pair of surviving dragons. Aang and Zuko performed the dancing dragon, with them accidentally losing their flames, a series of firebending forms carved as statues in the ruins. The fires deemed them worthy and engulfed them in a column of fire showing every color imaginable. Zuko and Aang realized that fire is energy and life, not just destruction. The Sun Warriors revealed that Iroh had lied about the extinction of the dragons after being the last outsider to them, in order to protect the remaining members of the species from further hunts. Both Aang and Zuko begin to firebend, stronger and more skillfully than before. So I loved so much about this episode, just from the visual standpoint. I love seeing all of this, the last surviving dragons. Zuko and Aang finally are on some sort of page together, trying to work together. It's just like, this feels so cathartic in a way I can't even explain it. So yeah, I'm just like, wow, this is quite incredible. So from a visual standpoint, absolutely blown away. And then we hear the chants from the credits. It's the Sun Warriors. It's the, at the end of the credits. It's like, that's the same chant that the dragons and the Sun Warriors had in when they were being shown. So it's like, holy Santa Claus, that was the thing the whole time? It was like the revelation. I don't know. It's cool how they were able to bring in like a narrative tonal melody and make it tie into a theme. I guess it's kind of like it is like a Game of Thrones thing. I mean, they had the title theme tie into something that actually happens in the show without being too spoilery. Blown away. Absolutely blown away. Sokka and Zuko infiltrate the Fire Nation's top prison, the Boiling Rock, Chapter 14, to find Sokka's father, Hakoda. It's on an island surrounded by a boiling lake. Sokka and Zuko wind up crashing their war balloon on a shore. They disguise themselves as guards and begin asking about Water Tribe prisoners, but they find that there are none. However, the pair discover Suki is at the prison. Zuko's cover is blown while Sokka and Suki reunite, and the warden, May's uncle, recognizes him. He informs Zuko that in due time he will be handed back over to Ozai. A fellow prisoner, Chit Sang, overhears Sokka, Zuko, and Suki discussing their escape plan and forces his way in. Sokka plans to use one of the insulated coolers used to punish prisoners who firebend as a boat to get across the lake. As they're getting ready to leave, however, Sokka and Zuko overhear talk that a new batch of prisoners are arriving at dawn, potentially including Hakoda. Sokka and Zuko and Suki decide to stay back and wait, while Chit Sang sets sail in the cooler. Chit Sang winds up getting caught as the new prisoners arrive. Hakoda is revealed to be the last one, and Sokka breathes a sigh of relief. Sokka reunites with his father, Hakoda, and begins cooking up a new escape plan. The group plans to take the warden hostage during a prison riot and escape on the gondola to the other side of the lake. May arrives and comforts Zuko about breaking up with her through a letter calling him a traitor to the Fire Nation. The warden interrogates Chit Sang for the identity of the escaped plan's mastermind. But Chit Sang saves Sokka. Chit Sang saves Sokka's cover by pinning the blame on a different guard who had previously thrown him in the cooler. Chit Sang subsequently asked to be included in the new escape plan. When the commotion of the riot breaks out, Zuko traps Mai in the prison and leaves to help his friends. The group successfully boards the gondola with the warden, but are pursued by Azula and Ty Lee. Sokka and Zuko deal with Azula while Suki gets a rematch with Ty Lee on the roof of the gondola. This was a really dope battle. I gotta say, this entire the original episode, chapter 14, and then going into 15, it really is like it says the chapters are called The Boiling Rock, Part 1, Part 2. It feels like a boilerplate Part 1, and then just an explosion Part 2. I absolutely loved all of the choreography that was going on with everything that had to do within like this volcano, this gondola, everyone doing backflips and firebending and fucking crazy airbending, firebending, and this just martial arts that are going out the wazoo, thinking that it's like these people are insane if they were like live action. Obviously it's cartoon, so it's a little bit more of a spectacle, but still, if this was shown live action successfully, it'd be, oh my gosh. Continuing in chapter 15, the warden breaks free and his... God, I can't read today. The warden breaks free and orders his guards to cut the gondola's cable line. Azula and Ty Lee escape to seemingly watch the group's demise, but Mai intervenes at the last minute to subdue the guards and allow their escape, which I was not expecting. When questioned why she did it, Azula, Mai calmly states that she loves Zuko more than she fears Azula. Enraged, Azula moves to strike Mai, but is chi blocked by Ty Lee. A powerless Azula then furiously orders both of them to be thrown in prison. Sokka and Zuko return to the Western Air Temple by stealing Azula's airship with Hakoda, Suki, and Chitsang, reuniting Katara and Hakoda once again. So as I stated earlier, these last two episodes were just phenomenal to watch back to back. It appears they were aired on the same date, on July 16th, 08. But yeah, I really didn't have many complaints about it. I would say maybe the chapter 14 was a little bit slower for me, but it didn't always, like I said, this show doesn't always have to go full throttle all the time. Sometimes they can lay out tracks on certain episodes and not have spectacular air bending of all different elements and stuff like that, because I definitely felt like this was of one piece, and the second half is just like an explosion of action, and I loved watching all of it. So far, I even watching watching Korra, I'd say this is still up there with some of the best fights, and most interesting fights. Like, it's not like we're just getting just non sequitur enemies coming out of nowhere, which I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, and I don't really want to like compare the two, because that is much more of a different take of a story in a world. But I feel like even just from watching it from afar, it looks like they have so many more enemies, and I don't know what the hell's going on. People are flying around and making loud noises, and sounds like they're pulling their backs. They're getting Charlie horses, and it just sounds overall really painful. This feels so much more flowy and original, and like I care about the different characters. I don't know. I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, so I'm just shitting on a show I've never seen. It's kind of unfair, but I guess I'm just comparing. I'm trying to compare it to like a show I have seen. Like, I don't know. We've what feels like this show is they've done the groundwork they've shown the backstories. We care about who these characters are. The majority of these characters are so fleshed out that we're like, oh my gosh, this is the best that we're getting to see. Finally, the confrontation between so and so and so and so, or finally getting a reuniting of like Katara and Hakoda, or what we know what it means when Azula is struck down by Ty Lee. It's just like, holy shit, these characters are starting to betray each other, and they've been along with each other for this entire trip. It's just like, oh my Lanta, it's finally all coming to a head. Chapter 16, The Southern Raiders. Azula ambushes the group of Western Air Temple, forcing them to split up again. Hakoda and Chitsang escape to the stolen Fire Nation airship with Teo, Heiru, and the Duke, while Suki and Zuko and Team Avatar blast their way past Azula and escape to safety. When Zuko saves Katara from being crushed by rocks, Katara angrily refuses to thank him. Afterward, Zuko confronts Katara about her distrust of him and her unwillingness to accept him into the group, like everyone else has. Katara berates Zuko and furiously reminds him that she was the one to trust him back in Ba Sing Se, only to be betrayed by him. Zuko decides to help Katara find the group of soldiers responsible for her mother's death, the Southern Raiders. Aang warns her not to give in to revenge, but to let her anger go and forgive. Katara and Zuko scoff at the notion and depart. Along the way, Katara's behavior becomes increasingly aggressive, even resorting to mercilessly bloodbending a Fire Nation officer for information. They eventually find the retired soldier, Yan Ra, who reveals that Katara's mother, Kai, named herself as the last remaining Southern water bender to protect Katara. Despite Katara's rage, pain, and desire for revenge, she is unable to take Yan Ran's life. Katara and Zuko leave, with Katara finally forgiving Zuko and accepting his friendship. At the end of the episode, Zuko asks Aang what he will do to confront his father, Fire Lord Ozai, leaving Aang disturbed. So I found this episode specifically fascinating. I guess it wasn't very clear how her mother died. I think maybe in the mining pits of some Fire Nation soldiers. Or what was it? The Southern Raiders? Is that what they were? But yeah, this is an entire episode that is talking about how Katara wants revenge, and trust me, I think the majority of us have been to a point of anger where we just want, revenge. And this is the specific type of episode you need to watch to have that, release. I've gone through my life in certain periods and thought, wow, that person just really deserves, the worst of the worst. And, when I would come back to that feeling, I was like, do I really feel like that? Or was I just feeling like that because, I don't know, the situation had gotten to a point where it was just upsetting, and I wanted to put blame on pretty much everything. And maybe, certain people are to blame for certain things. But generally and overall, what is it going to solve? Over the course of watching Avatar's season 1, 2, and 3, It's just episodes like these have been very cathartic for me personally. Honest, like I can't like quite explain it, how this kid's television show. Oh, I guess you know tearing it down to just saying that it's a kid's television show is not giving it enough credit, because it almost feels like these are animated bits of life and ways to work out emotion. That's personally what I get from Avatar, especially episodes like these that just help you work through emotions. And I kind of feel like it can be applied to different scenarios and different parts of your life. It's not just this. It's not just geared for young people learning how to deal and cope with emotions and stressful times. It's for people of all ages, just to kind of learn and thrive and grow, and I guess ponder upon situations and maybe think to yourself, maybe revenge is not the best option. I really enjoyed the end of this episode when Zuko asks Aang what he will do when he confronts his father, Fire Lord Ozai. The entire time we're thinking, oh yeah, Aang's probably gonna have to fuck this guy up, like really just give him the big old air straight to the dome, if you know what I mean. But I was just like, I really don't know what he's gonna do. So at this point, assuming you've already seen the end of the series of Avatar, we know what he's going to do, but I don't think we've ever seen him do that before. Or anyone else in the series do that before, at least. It's coming to a close very quickly, very quickly. Let me see what we got. All right. Chapter 17. Chapter 17, The Ember Island Prayers. Oh, God, I already fucked up. Chapter 17, The Ember Island Players. Sokka discovers that the Ember Island... That's hard to say. Ember Island Players, a Fire Nation theater group, is debuted. A play based upon the group's adventures. I absolutely love this episode. I did not think I was going to enjoy this episode nearly as much. They kind of did like a Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones did. They did a watch the show and watch the adventures of it within the show, using either like puppets or using like a play. This is using a play. The play turns out to be a Fire Nation propaganda, and although the audience enjoys the play, Aang and his friends are embarrassed by the inaccurate and exaggerated portrayals of themselves, with the sole exemption of Toph, who is amused by her depiction as a large, muscular man who employs a primitive form of sonar by yelling at everything. Oh my gosh. I was cracking up. Like, I love this show because I felt like they are smart enough to write this in a way that they're kind of making fun of themselves and making fun of the characters, but in a lighthearted way. And the characters are like laughing alongside. It feels like fourth wall breaking almost in a way. In context, the play also serves as a concise summary of Aang's entire journey throughout the show. Yeah, that was what I liked too, because it was like, all right, now we're kind of getting like a play-by-play with a kind of a funny sprinkle to it of what's happening, and our favorite characters are getting to watch it as well. Let me see. The play ends with the Fire Nation winning the war, Azula killing Zuko and the Fire Lord, killing the Avatar, which triggers a standing ovation from the audience and clearly frightens Aang. Aang also confronts Katara, where they stand with each other, having kissed at the invasion. Katara expresses that she isn't sure and is only further confused when Aang kisses her again. I was like, dang it, Aang, this is not the way to take care of things. Blah, blah, blah. The thing is, sometimes I get frustrated with Aang as a character. There's a couple times in the first season he just felt like, I was like, this would be a lot easier if you just tell the truth, or if you just talk about it, or maybe not kiss her at times like that. But Aang is human. He's not someone that just knows the right thing to do at the right time. He's making mistakes, and I do think it's interesting that the show writers and the people that are running it. This was Giancarlo Volpe on this one, directing it, with Tim Hendrick, Josh Hamilton, John O'Brien is writing on it. They decided to leave this kind of on a cliffhanger in a way. Like, this is such an interesting show to have such a broad spectrum of what's going on, and not always leave it in a good, happy place. Like, Katara expresses that she isn't sure and is only further confused when Aang kisses her again, and then it ends as not exactly a happy ending. I mean, the more I think about it, the more of these episodes are not exactly happy endings. Almost any episode with Zuko at the end is not a happy ending. It is, it's very interesting that they decided to kind of lean into the more harder aspects of storytelling, and they just in more realistic sides of storytelling, instead of just wrapping it all up in one. I was very applauded by that. Is that even I applaud them. I give them a round of applause. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. But they what I say is, I think it's interesting that they decided to end a lot of their episodes not exactly in a happy place. It's more of like a it's like, ooh, maybe next time kind of thing. But we don't have a maybe next time. Chapter 18, Sozin's Comet, Part 1, The Phoenix King. Aang has decided to fight the Fire Lord after Sozin's comet passes. Zuko derails the plan by revealing that Ozai intends to burn the entire Earth Kingdom and content to the ground. With the comet's power ever since the war meeting in Nightmares and Daydreams, the episode, the gang begins a frantic training regimen while Aang struggles with his responsibilities. His friends instruct him to simply kill Ozai, but Aang clings to the pacifist beliefs of the air nomad heritage. In his sleep, Aang is drawn towards a mysterious island that appears suddenly just offshore, and is followed by Momo. The next day, Aang's friends search all of Ember Island for Aang with no success. Desperate, Zuko takes off to find June, the bounty hunter, to attempt to locate Aang. June's Shiru is unable to track Aang's scent at all, leading June to say that Aang no longer exists but is not dead. Ozai bequeaths the Fire Nation throne to Azula and declares himself Phoenix King, ruler of the known world. Sorry. While Aang awakens on the unknown island, now in the middle of the sea. Chapter 19, Sozin's Comet, Part 2, The Old Masters. On the island, Aang seeks guidance from his past lives, but they too insist he may have to take violent action against the Fire Lord. After June is unable to find Aang, Zuko decides to ask June to ask. After June is unable to find Aang, Zuko decides to ask June to find his uncle Iroh instead. After June leads them to the outer wall of Ba Sing Se, they meet King Bumi, Jongjong, Master Pakku, and Master Pyondu, who are revealed to be members of the Order of the White Locusts, a secret society presently led by Iroh. That transcends the division of the four nations. Zuko finally reunites with Iroh, who expresses his joy that Zuko rediscovered his true path alone. The team decides to split up to stall the Fire Nation plans. Still unclear Aang's location. Zuko and Katara will face Azula at the royal palace. Sokka, Suki, and Toph will attempt to stop the air fleet bound for the Earth Kingdom. And Iroh is to lead the White Lotus in the liberation of Ba Sing Se. The island Aang is on is revealed to be a giant lion turtle who passes on his wisdom to Aang before leaving him on the shores of the Earth Kingdom to wait for Ozai. Sozin's comet arrives, and the Phoenix King prepares to destroy both the Earth Kingdom and the Avatar. So this is when shit gets real. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just like, holy Santa Claus, I am ready. I am like feeling it. I am loving all the past Avatar shit. I am loving all of this new visualization with this giant lion turtle. I was like, sheep, man. And he's giving them this, this wisdom with this amazing visual of him like touching Aang's head, and it's a beautiful visualization. I don't have really anything bad to say about these last couple episodes. And we also get a reuniting with Uncle Iroh and Zuko. It's very, very touching, and I believe everything that they wrote with Uncle Iroh's character absolutely would match anything that the voice actor Mako would say. I also really enjoyed the visualization of the Phoenix King and the way that they're clearly trying to have like this fascist kind of stylization of like Nazism kind of. They have all the same similar. They have everything but the Nazi symbol on there, and so it's pretty clear what they're trying to do, and I can totally see why Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Coneschino. I'm sorry if I'm fucking their names up. Brian Coneschino. I think I don't know. If I said it wrong, give me a pronunciation in the comments or something like that. Apologies for that. But anyways, yeah, the way that they are able just to convey this large of a scale and this amazing. Was this all? Yeah, all of this was all of this all in one day? Okay, so they had a 3-part finale in the last. Wow. 4-part finale. Wow. Okay, so the last 4 episodes were all shown at the same time, so it was just like really intense going on. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's all of the Sozin's Comet stuff. That's pretty impressive. I mean, you'd have to watch it all at once. I'd be pissed not to. I'd be like, you got to go hard or go home. So, what do we have? All right, so we are Sozin's Comet Part 3 into Chapter 20 into the Inferno. Azula's mental stability undermined by the betrayal of Mai and Ty Lee at the Boiling Rock begins to deteriorate as her coronation as Fire Nation approaches. She banishes her servants, Dai Li agents, and advisors, Lo and Lee, fearing everyone will betray her at some point. She's starting to lose her shit. I totally understood this, but I didn't really understand what was causing her to lose her shit. I just know trust, I guess. Fearing everyone will betray her at some point, which leads her to hallucinating an interaction with her mother, Sokka. Sorry. Before talking about Sokka, which leads to a hallucination to her mother. Her mother is a subsection of Avatar lore that is apparently kind of fuzzy. I won't go into it too much in depth, but Zuko does ask his father at one point where is his mother, and apparently they just never return to it. And so let's just assume Zuko finds his mother. We'll just leave it right there. Sokka, Toph, and Suki arrive just as Ozai's air fleet is lifting off, successfully boarding a ship with the help of Toph. They overpower the ship's crew and begin to take down the fleet. Iroh and the White Lotus arrive at Ba Sing Se to wipe out the Fire Nation's presence once and for all. Meanwhile, Aang finally confronts Fire Lord Ozai, but is immediately put on the defensive without being able to enter the Avatar state. I love everything that we have with the Iroh character. I do feel like the more I think about it, we should have had a little bit more with Iroh and Fire Lord Ozai, but mostly I think they didn't write as much for Iroh because they didn't have the voice actor, original voice actor. But I could be wrong. Given that they're like brothers, I feel like they would want a little bit more time on screen together. Meanwhile, Aang finally confronts Fire Lord Ozai, but immediately is put on the defensive without being able to go into the Avatar state. Aang is presented with an opportunity to redirect Ozai's lightning back at him, but chooses not to strike. Zuko and Katara confront Azula as she is about to be crowned, and Azula challenges him alone to an Agni Kai. Katara tries to convince Zuko it's a setup, but Zuko notices Azula's change in personality. The two engage in an epic duel that engulfs the palace, and when Zuko appears to gain the upper hand, Azula decides to target Katara with a lightning strike. Zuko jumps in to protect her and is gravely wounded. Ozai appears to corner Aang, Ozai appears to corner Aang, taking cover inside a ball of earth as Ozai repeatedly attacks, trying to force him out. So everything, I can't go on enough how amazing the battle is with Aang and Ozai. First of all, Mark Hamill as the voice actor is just really pushing it. He's, I feel like I can feel the Darth Vader within him, But anyways, it's funny that they even go to lightning now that I think about it, because that's even like a subsection of a force power. But anyways, when Aang is put on the defensive, I love to see what he thinks of next to put in a rock ball, when he's flying away, when he's doing airbending, whatever he's doing, whatever type of defense mechanism, and the different types of martial arts that he's using, and depending on what kind of bending he's doing, that'll decide what kind of movements he's doing. It is really, really intense, and this is by far one of my favorite battles to have watched. I guess non-live action that I've ever seen, and it was one of the most satisfying as well. Let's hop into the final episode. Chapter 21, Sozin's Comment. Part 4, Avatar Aang. Ozai accidentally causes Aang to enter the Avatar state when he is blown back into a rock that pierces his lightning wound, unlocking his chakras and restoring his connection. The Order of the White Lotus successfully liberates Ba Sing Se, while Sokka, Suki, and Toph successfully disable the airships and the Fire Nation attack Armada. I will say, like I said, I don't have many bad things to say. I'm just saying this is a fucking amazing show. It looks dope. The visualization, the steampunk aspects of all of the Fire Nation stuff, fucking amazing. I didn't know it was going to look that cool. I was not ready for all that. The three are separated, however, when the airship breaks in two. Katara takes over fighting Azula, though she is quickly put on the defensive, while also trying to tend to Zuko. She eventually comes up with a plan when Azula forces her near a graded storm drain. Katara lures Azula into position and pulls water over both of them before freezing it. Katara freezes herself within the ice and chains Azula to the grate before rushing to use her healing abilities on Zuko. Zuko and Katara watch with pity as Azula suffers a full mental breakdown. Sokka and Toph end up being cornered on another ship before Suki returns to save them. Aang chases and easily overwhelms Ozai, yet still refuses to kill him. When Ozai attempts one final strike, Aang uses knowledge he received from the lion turtle and employs the ancient form of energy bending to permanently stop and strip Ozai of his fire-bending abilities. In an epilogue sentence set some days later, newly appointed Fire Lord Zuko declares the war is over. He and Mai reconcile officially, and he confronts his father in prison, angrily asking where his mother is. Ty Lee is shown to have joined the Kaishi warriors while teaching them chi blocking in prison. Some time later, Team Avatar celebrate together at Iroh's tea shop in Ba Sing Se. Slipping out to share a quiet moment together, Aang and Katara embrace and kiss under the sunset. So, this entire last episode, wow, just blew me away. These last few episodes, you kind of have to put the part 4 all as just one big episode. Season finale, Susan's Comet, my Lanta. I loved it. I can't say enough good things about the choreography, the art direction. I love the characters. The way that pretty much everything falls into place is pretty damn amazing. We don't get everything tied up, but I feel like even him just Zuko asking about his mother should be enough. Like, he knows where his mother is. We know Zuko is not going to leave his mother there. It felt like at the beginning of season 3, this was coming to a head and that they knew that this was going to be their last season. But I was worried for, the first 2 seasons. I was like, this feels like a massive world. And so it is very apparent why they continued this Avatar, The Last Airbender world into The Legend of Korra. And for reasons of legality, they didn't use the Avatar name because of the James Cameron thing. And I don't know if they needed permission from the movies because of the shitty Last Airbender movie. But overall, The Legend of Korra is just fits right in there like an amazing puzzle piece. That the series is actually followed by The Promise, The Search, The Rift, Smoke and Shadow, North and South, and the Imbalance comic trilogies. And then that is followed by The Legend of Korra, which happens to take place around 70 years later. Which, as a matter of fact, if you enjoyed this podcast and review of Avatar, The Last Airbender series, we have the first season of Korra, The Legend of Korra, Season 1. So, if you would like to check that out, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Let me know how I can improve. Maybe by having a full cup of coffee next time, I'll be okay. But yeah, this is one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. I can't say too much bad about it. I think I had 1 or 2 gripes about maybe a couple characters not interacting at the end, and give or take about the mother. I feel like we know what happened to Zuko's mother. I don't need everything shown and explained. But yeah, and I guess the ability to take powers away is absolutely fascinating. I thought we were going to get a little bit more bloodbending from Katara, I will say. I thought she was going to do that on Ozai, or maybe even Aang was going to have to. But everything with that final battle, I was just like fascinated. When Ozai is completely defeated, he just looks like a bad dude. Something about long black hair with a long black goatee, dude. This does not look good on. You got that slender face, just means instantly evil. It's like, if you're a little bit hefty in comics, you're like, oh, you're greedy, or you're lazy, or you're fat. It's like, oh, my Lanta. If you're slender and slim and you got long black hair, oh, you're evil. It's just like one of them things. Oh my goodness. But yeah. What else do we got? Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Conesquigo. I know that they were supposed to be involved in the Netflix reboot of Avatar, which is why I think they had acquired all this stuff recently. Get people ready. They are not going to be involved in the Netflix thing anymore. I am pissed. I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't really want to see an Avatar without these guys involved. I don't know what it's going to be. I feel like it's just going to be a kids' television show. And it's, like I said, throughout this entire series review, it's so much more than that. It is way more than that. So, thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Let me know how I can improve on the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please be sure to 5 stars, subscribe, thumbs up. If you want this podcast early, you can get it on YouTube, and that's where we release most of the podcast all early. If you want it mastered, you get a little cool sounds, and you get the trailer and all that cool stuff. That's going to be available on the audio podcast, which is released on Soundcloud and all your favorite podcast providers. And we will be, we go live on Twitch. So if you want to interact with us there, that is a fantastic place to ask us all the questions. And we will cover additional Avatar World stuff there as well. And also additional podcasts as well. We have tons of podcasts coming down the tube. Like I said, we've already watched the first season of The Legend of Korra, so that will be coming down. I tell you a TV show that I'm really enjoying, and I think I'm just going to drop a podcast. Just drop it like it's hot real quick. I wanted to recommend Raised by Wolves. It's what I feel like the season 3 of Westworld should have been, honestly. It's like a strange combination of like Terminator and Maze Runner, it feels like. Or I never saw Maze Runner, but I feel like that's probably what it would be. But like I said, it's an interesting show to watch. Definitely check it out. If you liked sci-fi stuff and whatnot, at least you can check out the review and maybe you might be interested. So thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. And I will say there's never enough Appa. But until next time, yip yip.